I am Brady J. Sadler.
And I'm Adam Sadler.
And this is the Joint Operations Podcast. And around here, we are professional. We do not look up on Apple Podcasts to check what episode number this is right when we're recording. That'd be crazy.
What are you doing?
I was looking at my phone, my emails. Episode 5 today, which is called...
Short Notice?
Short Notice is good, actually. That's appropriate.
Coming up short?
Well, Adam's usually not the namer of the pair, but that's a good one because don't keep coming up with alternatives. I said Short Notice is good. So this is episode 5, Short Notice, because as we'll get in later, I had very short notice about some big news that came up, and it was almost made me pass. I almost had a heart attack in St. Louis. Is it St. Louis or St. Louis?
It depends on who's... I think if you're from there, you can probably say it differently, but...
Should I tell the joke? There was a joke. I don't know if you remember this as much as I did, but Dad was very proud of this joke. I think we were at Grandma's house or something, and he said 3 guys were out fishing. They're on vacation, and they're having a good time, and they're arguing about the name of the city because they're on the Mississippi River, and they're saying, no, it's St. Louis. And one guy's like, no, it's St. Louis. And the other guy's like, no, it's St. Louis. They call it St. Louis, and they kept arguing like all afternoon. So after a while, they go get some dinner, and when they're getting their order, they ask the server, could you solve a problem for us? Just very slowly. Please say the name of this place. And she goes, Burger King.
That's really good. That's
good.
Really
That's a good use of podcast time, right?
Yeah, that's good. What was that? 2 minutes of airtime?
Anyway, yeah. So I was in St. Louis this weekend.
I think St. Louis is fine because
we're Americans, right?
I think also the fact that we're recording this later than usual, and dare I say, not as prepared as usual.
I'm always prepared for talking for an hour of unprompted content.
And also, my job situation was apply there too. Kind of, I think.
You gave short notice?
No, I got short notice.
Bad
news.
That was a while ago. That's not necessarily for this week's episode.
I left people hanging last week, so.
So a little bit of what we've been up to for the last week, because a week is such a long time to check in on. But like I said, I was in St. Louis. St. Louis.
Just say it's St. Louis. Just going forward, let's just say St. Louis.
I was at the one of the authors at the Scares That Care AuthorCon 4, which usually is in Williamsburg, Virginia, I believe. But this is the first year it's in St. Louis. Went with a family. Packed in a car, took the kids out of school for a day, and went down on a Friday. Sold like approximately 2.5 books, I think, and then had to leave early on short notice. So, but a little anecdote I wanted to add: if any of our listeners are familiar with the lit RPG genre, which I am not so much, I'm aware of it. I haven't read a lot of it. I've read bits and pieces of some, and I understand the context of it, but it's probably not really for me. But, however, there is a very well-known author named Matt Dinneman who writes the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and he, on short notice, also appeared at this con. He wasn't on the website, so I didn't expect to see him there, but I was just kind of wandering the hall before we opened for the public and bumped into him and got to chatting about the books, and because I saw the cover, and I was like, I know this book series. Why is this at a horror con? At least I'm not alone with fantasy here at this horror con. Anyway, he's a big power metal fan, so I gave him copy of Relic Myers. He asked for the audiobook, and I gave him a physical copy too because he liked the cover, so hopefully he checks it out. That was a pretty serendipitous meeting, and I guess it was worth the trip alone, even though I didn't really make many sales, not having much advance notice on this thing, but it was a fun time.
Networking is valuable.
Yeah, it was cool meeting some authors, and I picked up a new book from a guy named Ronald Malfi, who's also a musician, so I gave him a copy of the Lauren Gard album too, or I say a copy of the album, I say that sticker, that says like, hey, there's an album, go check on streaming. So yeah, hopefully get some people looking at my stuff soon. But that was my weekend, and I'm happy to be home now because when I was there, which we'll talk about in more detail, Adam was pinging me with some news from Games Workshop, and I was just freaking out. I felt like I was going to have some sort of weird panic attack or something because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was beside myself with glee and disbelief and lots of other emotions.
It is relevant to this podcast as well. My week was not very eventful. Last time I was talking about waiting to hear back about a job offer, which, I went through the interview process of this job recently, for 3 rounds of interviews plus an sample app coding assessment thing. Everything went really well. Everybody seemed to like me, feeling good about it. and heard from the recruiter that I'd hear back an answer by that Friday or Monday. Monday came. Brady and I were playing Space Marine 2 because I was just killing time because I was, didn't want to sit around waiting for a phone call. My phone showed up that I had a missed call, and I was freaking out because it was from the job, and my phone didn't ring. So I was trying to call the recruiter back. Like, hey, did you try to call me?
If you miss a call from a recruiter with a job offer,
you missed the job.
They're not going to give it to you again.
But anyway, I just had to know. But like, I called back, got a voicemail. So I left a voicemail, sent an email saying, hey, I missed your call. I didn't hear back for like an hour and a half. It was like the longest hour and a half, actually 2 hours maybe. But the recruiter finally called me back. And in my experience, getting a call from a recruiter after job interviews is typically, here's a job offer. But it was actually, hey, you made it to the top 3 candidates to this interviews, and they went with somebody who had like a year more experience than you.
Here's an
so it was like just up. And it was like they were very chipper on the phone call, so it sounded like it was good news, but man, it was like such a punch in the gut. So that was a big setback for my job search. So back on the lookout for iOS jobs, kind of just applying for anything now at this point because the job market's so bad. But that was my week, was basically dealing with disappointment and trying to recover from that. So.
Yeah, I felt bad. I was listening to the last week's podcast too, and we were making jokes about like, oh yeah, everyone posts your congratulations gifts in the chat. So I assumed it was
I'm glad they did.
Yeah. But I was listening back to like, oh god, that did not age well. But hopefully this next week or two will turn around a bit.
I keep being told, oh, you should feel good. Like you should feel good. You got made it to the top 3. It's like, if I didn't get a job, it doesn't mean anything to me. Like it doesn't matter how much you like me. Yeah, if you're not going to hire me, then
there's no like it's only pass fail in that regard.
Yeah. So that was very disappointing. But I've found a bunch of new jobs to apply for, so we'll see how the next few weeks go.
Well, like we talked about last week when I was talking about we had like millions of listeners, so like one of those listeners has got to have some leads,
one.
So
Just one.
I was trying to take a drink of water earlier, and anyway,
parched.
I'm a little parched. The first segment for this episode is going to be probably the only segment because it's probably going to drag on, but we're going to talk about tabletop games a bit, which we usually do, right? We have this set order.
All right,
banter, tabletop.
So can I set this up then, since I set you up for it? Well, can I give the introduction?
Sure, I don't care. Yeah.
So you were in St. Louis, so you weren't there.
Yeah.
Brady was busy doing his author signing thing, so I always watch every Games Workshop, reveal, preview, live stream, whatever. I always just tune in to see what's new, even though they kind of drag out sometimes talking about a single miniature for too long. But anyway, I like to see what's coming up. And with this new edition of Kill Team that inspired us to start this podcast, we were really excited about it. We were super excited about this new edition of Kill Team because it felt like Games Workshop was literally listening to everything that I wanted, because I loved Kill Team, but I wanted some fixes to the rules, some streamlining, getting rid of the shape for movement, because now they're doing inches in movement, which is great. Adding solo and co-op rules. I never imagined they would actually do that. So it was like everything was so exciting about this new edition. So this preview specifically had some games they were going to talk about, was Age of Sigmar and 40K, and they also had some Kill Team stuff, so I wanted to tune in to see what that was. So I'm just chatting with Brady online while I'm watching it, and they shared this little video about the holiday season and cooking or whatever, cooking in the bunker, and it was this little holiday rattling sniper miniature holiday model. There was like 2 rattling snipers with some food and stuff like that, and it was
one was cooking sausage in the little tin, and the other one was like keeping watch, going shh, and there was a cup of gravy up on the
And so I sent that to picture. Brady's like, oh yeah, is that new models? And he's like, oh, it's a single one, that's a bummer. And I said like, yeah, it's sad that they they support rattlings, but they don't actually have them in their games.
Yeah, as a little aside, because I remember, I think it was last year, there's two instances last year with rattlings, because they put an audio drama out. I forget what the audio drama was called. It was a Baggett and Claude novel. Baggett's a rattling sniper, and Claude is a big Ogren who's had brain damage, which makes him intelligent. It's a very, very interesting audio drama. They had a book come out too, and I forget the author's name off the top of my head, but good book. It was called The Wraithbone Phoenix, and it was rattlings are prominent. And I'm like, man, why do they have so many rattlings, but they don't support them in the model line? And then we played Darktide for forever, and all the dialogue is mentioning rattlings.
Yeah, there are so many voice lines where they reference rattlings being great snipers and stuff, and it just teases Brady. It's like, why can't I play as a rattling? Because you can play as an Ogren in that game, which is the size difference is huge.
And the first thing I thought of when you sent me that link was I was thinking about back in Blood Bowl before they released halflings. They had that little ref with the sandwich. There was like a promo figure for and I was like, oh, why do they tease you with showing you a halfling model and you can actually play as halflings? And I was thinking the same exact thing. And then
right after I sent that message, I literally said it's sad that they talk about halflings but they don't actually have them in their game. And as I was saying that, the hosts were like, oh, well, speaking of ratlings, you like ratlings, right? Let's check this out. And then they showed this cinematic of the new Kill Team expansion called Brutal and Cunning. And it is literally a ratling sniper kill team versus orc kill team. And I sent it to Brady, and he was losing his mind
I was afraid I was going to die. Like, I was thinking of that scene in The Office where Michael Scott was saying, like, if this doesn't go my way, I'm going to get really angry. And if it does go my way, I'm going to burn this place down out of excitement. I felt like that because I was like, this is good news, but I feel, like, panicked. I felt so, like, I don't know, like, what was going on? This is not real. And I just... It sounds so silly being that excited about something, but it's almost like that was literally just made for me. Like, I don't know how many people out there are saying like, "Oh, where's all the ratlings?" And I mean, apparently some are. But
a lot of people are very excited about it, but they might not be like complaining about it. A lot of people might not complain that they're not there, but they want them. So.
I don't complain. I just nag. I nag because
you complain.
I gripe a little bit, but it's mostly just like a reminder. Like, these things exist. Make them in your game.
And not only are these like our ratlings in Kill Team, the models look fantastic. Like,
real quick though, before we get into the models, like, I don't know if some of our listeners might not know what ratlings are, so I'm just gonna say space hobbits, like, space halflings. They're halflings that they call them ratlings because they're more of genetic. Are they genetic mutations or genetic?
They call them abhumans in 40K, which consists of anything that's like a not fully human, because the Imperium is very racist. Like, you have to be human, but they do let abhumans, like,
they use them.
Yeah, they use them because ratlings are fantastic snipers, and ogrins are just brute. They're huge and they're really strong. So
ratlings in general, they're just, you imagine little halflings with no shoes on, big hairy feet, and they carry big sniper rifles and goggles.
Yeah, and ogrins are just ogres. Like, they're just ogres. And usually they tend to hang out with each other because they both like food, and they just seem to get along. Ratlings and
ratlings are big thieves. They love stealing stuff. They have an unbelievable disregard for personal possessions or something like that.
Yeah, the models though are very fun. They're very characterful. They have, for example, there's a guy like I don't know, he's like a sergeant or something, but he's like he's got like a cup of tea or
Captain
something.
Fixer or
he's like looking out. He's looking out with a cup of steaming tea, hot tea in his hand. There's a sniper guy with like a gun battery sitting next to him that's got like brewing tea, but also like heating up a sandwich on it. All kinds of.
I like there's the really chubby guy with the mustache and the helmet. And he's carrying a huge ammo box and he's like scrambling. It's like there's so many really cool. It's like 10 different models, and I'm sure they have plenty of options. I think one of the things that really caught is it the audio level?
Your input's lower than mine, it seems like.
Well, it's adjusted a little bit, or I'll just talk closer to the mic. But the battle pug or battle mutt, whatever it is, the little dog they have.
It's a Frenchie.
Yeah, so many really cool models, and I'm like still in disbelief that it's actually happening. It's crazy.
I will say I'm a little disappointed that they have orcs again, because there's already orcs in Kill Team, and I honestly think the original orcs are better. These are very specific. Like, I think they call them tank busters, but they have like rocket launchers and explosives and stuff. And they look cool, but I actually like the other orcs better.
Yeah, like I was thinking when we did the pre-orders last week or the week before, I was tempted to get the orcs because I liked the little goblin miniature. There was like a little like goblin with a grappling hook, and there was some really cool, like, there's variety.
I think they call them grots in 40K.
Yeah, little grots. They had a lot of cool variety in that box. So yeah, it was kind of weird that this one had less variety, and they just were less. I mean, I wouldn't say less interesting, but just for me, like they're more. I don't usually like big armored guys, but hey, there might be good NPOs. So
yeah, the expansion features like this bunker terrain, and so there's like they said there's missions that are focused on like defending a bunker. So I think it's set up to be like the rattling snipers defending a bunker with these orcs explosive specialists trying to blow the bunker up. So that's why it seemed like overkill when it's like, oh, these orcs are fighting these ratlings, so they got these rocket launchers and stuff. It's like, oh, they're just little ratlings. You don't need that.
Well, they actually kind of in the narrative they kind of introduce it in a cool way where they're talking about in the other box while that like aerial assault's going on. There's like a weak spot where the orcs are invading, but the only people who are holding out there are the ratlings. So it's like it's got a cool thematic narrative going on behind it. So it's more like the orcs are taking advantage of this other assault. They're trying to punch through some weak part in the bunker, and then these halflings are like, or the ratlings are like, we gotta defend this.
The interesting thing is the article on the community Warhammer community site. It wasn't up yesterday because the site was like probably had issues or something going on. But today I was reading it, and it looked like they mentioned Ogrins a few times, and there was like a little asterisk that was supposed to have like a footnote or something that seemed to got left off the article. But maybe there's Ogrins coming in the future in some form that can party up with the ratlings.
Because I know it doesn't matter in the joint operations, and it might be different in this new edition, but when you're making a kill team, you have to abide by those traits, right?
Well, you have a list, a kill team list, but like when they released the Inquisitorial Agents, that was a kill team that was designed to be socketed into other kill teams. So that kill team had the rules for how to put them into kill teams. So if the Ogrins come out separately, they can be put in a kill team. That's probably how it's going to function. Maybe it's like a mercenary box or something. I don't know.
But they didn't have a thing where saying you can include X number of like things with this trait or something with the red orange text or whatever.
I haven't looked at the rattling like kill team list. Every kill team has a list.
We'll update that because once we get it, I'm sure they might do some preview articles too.
But yeah, they said they're going to have preview articles very soon leading up to the release, and hopefully the release is very soon. They said it's going to be soon, but
did they say the pre-order was this coming weekend? So like this releases on the 8th to October 8th, right? Which is when this episode drops October 8th, which is when the Diablo expansion comes out. So that's something else we'll always have to talk about next week. But the pre-orders for this, did they say it was going to be this Saturday, or they just said soon?
For the Brutal and Cunning?
Yeah.
It just said soon.
Okay.
Usually when the pre-orders come up, it's the following week when it comes out. I don't know what they're going to do. They still have quite a few of the old kill teams to release, like in waves apparently, because this first batch was only like a handful of them. There's quite a few left for them to release. So I'm wondering if they're going to do those waves of kill teams first and then release this expansion, or maybe they're going to put this expansion out with one of those waves. I don't know.
Needless to say, it's extremely exciting.
It is really strange because I've been a Games Workshop fanboy for like 20 some years, 25 years maybe.
Yeah, it's been 26 years I think, since we've been playing Warhammer.
So, but I've never felt like they've like done what I wanted for like they've been listening to my wish list or something. And I wouldn't say that ratlings are on my personal wish list, but I know how much Brady loves them, and I would like people that I know that play Warhammer with me, they'd be excited about stuff in Warhammer. So it's really cool to see them finally doing that.
Yeah, and what's even more interesting is I've always told you, I know people who I talk to, maybe online and stuff, they might see me joking a post about, I'm being annoyed that ratlings aren't in Space Marine 2. I'm joking. It's just like I want more ratlings, but like I've never really thought like, oh man, I want a whole box of all I wanted was like a team of like Imperial Guardsmen and then like maybe like one Ratling sniper as part of that unit, just to have a cool character. So the fact that they decided to do this whole like literally a whole kill team of Ratlings is wild to me. But like you mentioned before, from a business standpoint, it's very smart because they make that plastic that can be used in the 40k game. And
yeah, because Imperial Guards, the Imperial Guard army can have like Ratling snipers as a unit, and they had that really old like metal,
which I almost bought unit just to have some, but they're not that.
They're old. I mean, they were good for their time, but these right here are just like I said, they're so full of character, and there's just so many cool models that could be used for 40k as well, which is awesome. And not to mention, I saw that I'm a part of the Necromunda group on Facebook, and they always share 40k releases to like, oh, we can use this in Necromunda, and they're all super excited to have like Ratling I think they're called Venerators and Slopper hangers
Sloppers,
on.
yeah.
But they're excited about having Ratling models for Necromunda as well.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. We haven't played Necromunda in a while, but that's cool to have those.
Honestly, there's no reason to with well, I mean, I love Necromunda, but the way that with Kill Team and the co-op and solo stuff coming out, I don't think I ever want to play Necromunda.
Yeah, I don't think I love the Necromunda rules specifically. I like that it's a cool, like very robust skirmish game.
Yeah,
but
I like the actual playing the game is fun. There are things I don't like about it. Like I wish that I could take like Frostgrave, treasure and put that in Necromunda, because with Necromunda, when you go and open one of those crates, it's so disappointing. It's like, oh, I found 3 credits, or I found a bomb.
You found an ammo.
Yeah.
An ammo reload that I never use.
It's not that interesting. It'd be cool if it was a little more lighter on the rules, more on the fluff and the, treasure and stuff like that.
And I'm not one to, what do you call it? Like, expect more, like whatever. There's a word for that when you're like expecting more and more and more. Like the fact that this box is happening, fantastic. But it makes me wonder if, like, for example, Darktide, those little nuggets of halflings they mentioned, like they've been in the works of adding a ratling to that game, and now that they actually have them appearing, more prominently in the tabletop world, if they might start putting them into the video games.
There's absolutely no reason why they couldn't have a rattling in Darktide. I've seen people with this argument about like the size or whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense because it's a video game. You can if you can make an Ogren work, you can make a rattling work.
Also, make the rattling just really squishy. Like, I don't care if he's really fragile and dies real quick.
And add third person. Dang it! I've been playing Darktide a lot lately, more and more, just because I can only play so much Space Marine too. But every time I play it, I'm like, man, why can't I just play the third person? Like, it needs to be third person.
Speaking of Space Marine, well, before we go into Space Marine and talk about video games some more, I just realized we probably should have played one of those campaign decks before doing this episode, so we could talk about the stuff you just got, the Marvel United box. Because
it took me so long to organize it that I needed a break. I was just not in the mood to play it yesterday. I spent like almost a whole day unpacking that stuff and organizing it and condensing it. I officially have no more room for any more Marvel United. I have all of the Marvel United stuff. I think I have everything released for it, and it is insane the amount of content that game has.
I forget if I got everything for DC.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Even the big thing, because usually I don't like the big guys, like the big Starro. They had a big Starro miniature.
It's probably part of the Kickstarter.
Yeah, maybe
I got Galactics, by the way, and that thing is huge. It's really good quality, but
part of me kind of regrets not getting the big Cthulhu model for Death May Die. Not because I want a huge model, but just because it has gameplay content, and I love that game. So,
I mean, that's why I got the Galactics expansion, not because of the model, because the expansion looked cool.
Aside from the super distracting, exciting rattling announcement that I'll probably be talking about for several episodes to come, we also got some updates from Richard, our design buddy, Richard Lanius, who's helping us with the Relic Myers and the Legends of Laramie board game. It's really coming together. He's hoping to have, we got like kind of a board mapped out. He's got how the character cards are going to work, and he's got a cool sideboard for Alternus. And if you've read the book, or if you're familiar with the book, or maybe you've heard us talk about the book, you might know that's kind of like this alternate dimension. Like the book doesn't really go into extreme detail yet, but the game will kind of have more hints. So that's moving along. I know he was part of that big hurricane over there in South Carolina. So. He was out of like power and internet for days, and it sounded awful. For anybody who else was dealing with that. So hopefully everything's going well, because that sounds like a mess. Oh my god.
Yeah, it sounds like things are going. It sounds like everybody was okay on his side, but it sounded like it was a horrible situation. And glad it's getting better.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's going on the tabletop side. I'm looking forward to this Tuesday. When this episode comes out on Tuesday, Diablo comes out. We get our Kill Team stuff, our second edition. Is it second edition, or is it?
They don't call it second edition. It's the new edition.
The new edition,
because it seems like Games Workshop puts a new edition out of their big games every 3 years or so. Mm-hmm. So it's just a cycle now.
So it's going to be a big day on Tuesday. So Monday might feel like really slow, but when you're listening to this, it'll be the future. It'll be.
I think our next episode will probably have a lot more discussion about the actual rules of Kill Team, because maybe we'll actually have gotten a game in.
Yeah, and we'll see how, because we keep struggling with like a format for this podcast, and like after this rattling announcement, I'm like, this podcast is literally just going to be a Kill Team podcast. It's called Joint Operations. We're going to play Joint Operations. We might design some Joint Operations of our own.
I was going to say we probably have to, because the game has co-op and solo rules, but it sounds like there's only like 3 missions that they have. So
I'm in the mood these days. Like we used to not want to do homebrew stuff because like it felt like work, but because we're doing less games now, and like we're kind of we're doing some games, I feel like doing some of our own design for Kill Team will just make me more excited about both talking about the game, playing the game, and also maybe making new games. So might be a cool way to fill some time on this podcast too, is if people want to hear about it. I'm not sure if we'll have listeners they get bored of a kill team, or if we're going to be drawing more kill team listeners. But we'll see how it goes, I guess.
Speaking of kill team, they did release the new app for kill team, which is like a reference app. It has some basic rules in there, but also like all the kill team rules. So any kill team that you're interested in, you can go check out the app and read the rules and see if they sound fun to play.
Do you think they added the ratlings?
No, I doubt it. That's all for stuff that's been released.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, it's not. Don't get excited, everybody. It's not there. So yeah, that's our tabletop situation. Haven't got a chance to play much. Oh my god. Hopefully that didn't show up.
I heard it in my hearing.
Oh man, so I'll have to edit that out probably. But the now I lost my train of thought.
Video game stuff.
Well, yeah, the tabletop.
You didn't have a chance to do something.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to play Run, Fight, or Die, which is Richard's zombie game. But I was reading the rules. He sent me the first edition, which looks really cool. I ended up buying the second edition, which was the wrong one. So I got to learn both of those and try them both out. But haven't had a chance to play yet, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. But we have been playing a lot more Space Marine 2 in the video game side of things.
For a change.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this. I think it was the first episode. I forget if had it come out. It might have come out by the first episode of this podcast, but we were talking about I think we were speculating on the first episode whether or not I'd get sick of playing those same 6 operations over and over again. But yeah, it definitely hasn't happened. Like we've played each of those things dozens and dozens of times, and still I never get sick of playing one. They're super fun. The combat is just so engaging.
Yeah, I also have been enjoying classes I like to play. I've maxed out the tactical class, the bulwark, just finished the heavy, and I'm starting the sniper now. And they're all been pretty fun in their own ways. The heavy's a little more challenging, but still fun mowing stuff down with the heavy bolter.
Yeah, and I've just stuck with the Vanguard. I tried the sniper a bit, but the Vanguard's just too fun to play.
It is weird though, like you said, there's only 6 missions, but I haven't got sick of any of them.
I want to go play right now. I want to go play another operation. So that's all for today, guys. We're going to close out the episode and go play some Space Marine 2.
He's joking.
I'm joking. The other video game thing, though, like I said, is when this episode launches, hopefully everybody's playing Diablo 4.
I'm definitely getting the itch again. We haven't played since we finished up the last season, which I tend to do pretty quickly because once the season comes out, I play it like every day. And we kind of plowed through all that content, especially when you have people to play with because you can do the higher level stuff faster. But this new expansion, Vessel of Hatred, has a lot of new content. One of the most exciting features is the Dark Citadel, which is a co-op focused dungeon. It's like a raid because there's like wings, like an old school World of Warcraft raid. But it's co-op focused, so you need at least two players to do it, ideally 4. But there's mechanics that require coordination and teamwork, and they added a party finder to make that a little easier. So luckily we play with our wives, so we have a full group of 4, so it should be very easy for us to get in there and make a lot of progress, plow through that season or that content. Probably.
Yeah. I'm kind of confused of how. I know you've kind of explained this before, but because it's a new expansion and a season, is there going to be the expansion story to the expansion campaign and then also a season story, or are they just doing the season?
No. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure the season is tied into the new expansion.
I kind of assumed that, but I wasn't sure how they.
I mean, usually the season stories are a few quests, so they're.
Actually, are the season ones the Crusader ones or the? Is that
that's the season?
Okay.
So that I guess there is
that's separate story. Yeah, there's a faction of the camp, but yeah,
which hopefully I really hope people have speculated about this. I think I was watching Riker talking about this, and he has the same thought I did, where they were mentioning in this new season, a lot of people, including myself, were really upset that the Paladin was not the first class introduced in the Diablo expansion, because so many of the classic classes are there, but the Paladin / Crusader is not there, and that's one that many people want, including me. It's the one that I want the most. I actually don't like any of the classes right now, so I love the game, but I would love a Paladin. But anyway, there are a lot of Crusaders left around in the Hawazar? Is that the name? Yeah, Hawazar region. But in this particular season, they kind of focus on them about being in a bad place. They're kind of like the organization is not at its strongest. They're kind of weakened, and they're trying to kind of gather strength. And this season is about helping them. And then I'm speculating maybe that's a kind of like a little teaser that, hey, Crusader is going to be the focus in the future here because we're building up this organization, and eventually you can play as one of these guys, which would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd hope so. It's weird because when we played the game when it first came out, that's what it felt like. It was already leading up to the first expansion.
Yeah, I could have sworn it was because of all that Crusader stuff. Like you go and help a Crusader find armor, and their name is Johanna, which was the name of the Crusader in Diablo 3.
One, yeah. Yeah, so that would make the most sense, but it's funny, isn't it? Because usually, almost every time we play a game, you have plenty of classes you like, and I can't find a single one that I really get behind. And then Diablo 4 comes out, and the Rogue is like the perfect class for me, like perfect. I couldn't even design it better myself. And
yeah, I was almost positive when Diablo 4 was being teased, like as they led up to the release, they would tease out different classes, and they were down to one left, and I was positive it was going to be Crusader or Paladin, because the last few games have always had a Crusader. But it was Necromancer. I was like, oh, it's so boring.
It's funny because I like Necromancers, but in that game, I've never found them appealing, and I just kind of get bored of them. But they're always there.
I'm actually very disappointed in the Druid in Diablo 4 because I was very excited. I like Druids a lot, but I don't like the way the Druid plays, and I also don't like the fact that you have a set body type.
Yeah, they should really customize each of the body sets. But I know it's probably because of the armor, like they have like custom armor stuff.
But it just seems like you have so much customization options in Diablo. You can even customize your armor color and stuff.
Yeah, like right now, I think with each of those classes, it'd be cool if those body shapes and body types were just like all interchangeable. You could just play as a druid style character as a rogue. You know, like you can just pick whatever body shape you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but I don't want to play as a big old hulking, refrigerator looking dude. I like
takes up a lot of the screen.
Fortunately, the new class, Spiritborn, which as mad as I am that's the class instead of Paladin, it does seem like a well designed class, and I'll probably try that one out this season. It has a druid feel to it, like seems like kind of like a mix between the monk from Diablo 3 and like some kind of shaman. So it looks like a fun class.
I like the centipede jaguar builds; those look really cool.
I'm going to go gorilla eagle.
I don't even know. I don't know if I'm going to play them because I always just get stuck on rogue and I just can't break away from it. But I might.
Dude, when I played Diablo 3, every season I played a Crusader. I had the same build every time, and I always had fun doing it. So pick a class you like and fit your play style. In a lot of ways, that's the video game side of things. It's like kind of boring, but in a good way, because like I like having a routine, and Space Marine is a fun routine. It'll be nice on Tuesday when we have something new to play, but for the last like month or so, it's been pretty pleasant just waking up and doing a couple operations before work. But yeah, anyway, that's I would say it's been fun, but the only thing pleasant about it is it distracts me from the job search. So
it is a distraction. Aside from video games, I know last time we were talking about our designs, but like I think our next design chronologically we did doesn't really exist anymore. Right?
Yeah, like that's the problem with a lot of our designs, because
it's right behind your head. Actually, I see it there.
Yeah,
Myth Dark Frontier.
Don't have a lot of good stories about that one.
Yeah, it was a quick design. I mean, I think we were really under the influence of Defenders of the Realm when we were setting out to design that.
Kind of wanted to do like a adventure tower defense style game, like where you're trying to defend some central point, and that's kind of what that game was. There were some cool aspects of it. I think there was a hint of our whole altar pool, like what is that? What do we call that in Altar Quest? Was it the altar pool? Because it's been so long since we played that.
I think,
or since we designed that.
They just called the altar dice, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a pool of symbols that I thought was the altar pool.
That's a good question. No,
I think it was. Rune? They were runes, right?
Well, we didn't call them runes, but yeah, I mean, essentially they were the types of the runes associated with the.
Yeah, it's been.
Did we call them runes?
We should probably read our rule books before we talk about our designs.
Well, we're not talking about Altar Quest. We're not talking about Myth Dark Frontier.
But I'm just saying in general.
But I mean,
the problem when you design so many different games and you always move on to the next one. You don't really play the ones that are released, all the time. Like there are lots of games I'd never even played before that we designed the final product of. So.
Yeah, I don't really have much to discuss on that one. I mean, unless anybody had any questions about it, they can send them in. Because that process was, like I said, pretty straightforward. Didn't really have much shelf life after it came out, and I think did MegaCon. They made a deal with Ulysses or something. Ulysses Spiel.
I think that Ulysses bought out the Myth
IP. Yeah,
and they are finishing delivering the last Myth Kickstarter. I'm not sure. That was another. That whole period of my life was another post layoff. Like I've been laid off previously in my career, which was when I worked in the Yellow Pages group. When I first moved back to Indianapolis.
How did that company ever go under?
Well, just kidding. It's like I should have known that when I took that job. It's like this has a shelf life of not too long because it's a phone book. But I managed a team of graphic designers there, and eventually I was one of many managers, and my position was eliminated because of cutbacks and stuff. So luckily, MegaCon offered me like some contract work to work on a new game, but also I helped rewrite the Myth rulebook for their first Myth game, and that led to them contracting us to do this game. So it was kind of like in this weird point in my life where I was laid off from a job and I was doing contract work just to get by and do some game design. So it wasn't the most inspiring time period for me.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like just like you hate to say it, but it's like no, I mean you hate to say it, but it's like you're just doing it for the money. Like it's work. You got to get paid, and but I mean, like we had cool ideas to put into it, but it was just sort of like get it out the door, get it done, and we wanted to get more designs.
That was actually right before we took the Walking Dead, right?
I think it was around the same time, which is I think why we had to kind of like hurry up and get it out the door. And yeah, it might have been. We might have designed Walking Dead first because it took longer in production and kickstarting, but I forget. It's been a while. I'd have to look at the email chains.
Around that time, eventually I took a job at your company as a proposal writer. Yeah, that's when I started doing that. So.
Good old corporate travel. But we do have, I mean, we don't have much content to talk about in that regard, but we do have some listener feedback / questions. I know Ryan Needers, which I found out I was pronouncing his name right. It's like Needers.
That's how I always pronounce it. So,
but he was asking about since Adam has app building skills, have we ever thought about putting out a game app? Because he was referencing the Street Masters app that came out.
Oh, is that Ryan?
That's Ryan.
I saw
Blackheart Paladin.
Okay. I was gonna say that's good timing because we were just about to record.
I will assume it is because I saw him join when I sent the link, so I'm assuming that's him. I don't know for sure, but
if not, we apologize for getting your name wrong.
I'm pretty sure. I was part of his D&D Discord server when I was going to try to find time to play with his group. So I think that's what his screen name was. But yeah, he referenced the Street Masters app, which we didn't actually do a lot of the. I mean, we designed the game that was based on, but we had
there was a volunteer almost. It wasn't. He got paid, but he came to us with a concept because he was just passionate about apps and he liked our game.
This is a perfect transition because he started doing the Dark Frontier app, and we told him that game might not be around. So like, why don't you do? Yeah, he was programming a Dark Frontier app.
I did not realize that
because I remember seeing the
we planned that segue.
Totally scripted. But yeah, he reached out and he did an amazing job. He just did it as a passion project, but luckily we got him paid and everything. And
even cooler is the Steamforge is where he worked with Steamforge to bring some more content back when Steamforge took over Street Masters, and so the app is, I think it's back in high gear now. I haven't looked at it, but
I haven't opened it up in a while. I didn't play much, but
it is basically like it's playing Street Masters on the app. It's a recreation of the board game. It's not like inspired by. It is the Street Masters game.
So it's like if you don't like tracking all those defense tokens and power tokens, just have the app do it for you. So
honestly, I wish we had that early on where we could use it for playtesting. Yeah, because it's way quicker to playtest all those decks.
Yeah, it'd be easier to do on the app than even like on Tabletop Simulator. Like that would be so much quicker.
But to answer Ryan's question in particular, when I was learning app development, I was in coding boot camp and doing software development, but it wasn't app related. It was like back end stuff. I started learning Swift / iOS development on my own because I got a MacBook and I was kind of moving far ahead in the boot camp, kind of not really being challenged. So I wanted to do some more stuff on my own. And so I started teaching myself iOS development, and I just started making apps. I made like 3 different apps one for tracking Age of Sigmar campaign stuff, one for tracking Stargrave warbands, Stargrave crews, sorry, and I did one for 5 Leagues from the Borderlands, for tracking your warband in that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, I like making tracking apps. It was just, I don't necessarily like pen and paper stuff when I'm playing games. I always want to have an app to just condense everything. So that's kind of what inspired me to do that. But I would say that I have less of a desire to make an app that is integrated into a game or a game in itself. I can think Brady's the same way, where he's not that excited about playing app-driven board games. I think he's had experience working on one that wasn't as inspiring.
Yeah, it's like you get a ton of more possibilities with the app, but like it's just the function, I guess the functions that have to be taken into account when you're playing the game, because we've always designed with the actual functionality in mind. Like, how long does this take to set up? Well, I shouldn't say we always designed. We learned to start designing with that in mind, because like one of our, I think, regrets with Alter Quest was we didn't like the final quest area layout. If we go back in time, we probably would have addressed that a little better.
Alter Quest?
Because you have those cards laying out. So like when we were playtesting, it didn't feel as much of an issue until we had the final copy. We're like, you know what, we could have done this a little better.
It's a table hog.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So with the app, there's a lot of cool things you can do to like mitigate that, but at the same time, you replace that with like this kind of back and forth upkeep. So I mean, it's kind of a hit or miss for me.
I will say that the first time we played the Mansions of Madness Second Edition app-based game was, I feel like, a phenomenal experience. It was so cool to play that, and everybody had a good time. But if you asked me to play that now, I probably wouldn't want to. I mean, I'm not going to say that it wasn't fun, but it just, I don't feel like it lasts. You know, I feel like there's it's like a consumable experience that, at least for me, I'm not like drawn to do more of. It's hard to explain, but I do like I like playing them, but I don't think I'd ever want to make one myself.
Yeah, I think what I like apps mostly for is like this Kill Team one we're talking about. I like referencing. I like having quick reference, and even though I like physical cards, I like books. It's also nice to have that.
I don't necessarily want to enter stuff into an app while I'm playing. You know,
it's the upkeep process and that's almost everything you have to do to make apps compelling with a board game is somehow inputting that data into the app. So that's the problem I have. Because if I'm playing a board game, I kind of just want to play the board game. I just want to focus on the physical components. I don't want to upkeep what I'm doing here in the app. So that's the tricky part. And also, I think one of the biggest things too is apps are great at like creating these like hidden information and revealing things over time. So you have that cool like storytelling possibility. But again, I don't need more storytelling with board games. My biggest problem with a lot of these thematic board games is they make you read paragraph after paragraph to convey some kind of story. I just want to play the game and have a story play out with the game mechanics itself. So I don't need that app edition typically. I'll always try it out, you know, when someone, because like for example, that Fate Forged game I've been playing with my wife and daughter, like that's a cool game. The app is done very well, but I probably just wouldn't create one. I wouldn't be compelled to.
I'll tell you what I am looking forward to is that Iridia board game.
Yeah,
that game, it might have storytelling, but it's something that I'm super excited about. It seems like what I would have wanted like Gloomhaven to be, for example. It looks honestly like a Gloomhaven competitor.
It looks like what, because I mean it's got dice, it's got like more high fantasy, like traditional high fantasy, so it's like kind of what I would want out of a game like Gloomhaven, so much more. But I'm curious to see like, you know, how it's received. I'm pretty sure we'll like it. I'm sure it'll be a hit here, but I'm curious to see how it is like in the greater, you know, community.
It's kind of funny. It's been like over a year since we had that Shadows of Brimstone campaign, and I was like, let's put this on hold until we get Iridia, because I thought we were going to get it anyway. And it's like been like a year ago, and it's like, oh, we're still waiting on that. So maybe we'll go back to having our weekend campaign games, you know, which was fun.
I know we usually do like what you've been reading or what you've been watching, but I also, like, you don't read much.
I don't know how to read.
I'm going to add in like what you've been reading, just because I think I might have mentioned before that I'm reading the Stephen King, what do you call it? Dark Tower. I keep I'm reading the drawing through, which is book 2 of the Dark Tower, so it's pretty cool. But because it's close to Halloween, I'm still craving that horror. I decided to listen to the audiobook for Stephen King's Salem's Lot, because I wanted to watch that new HBO Max movie. It was supposed to be a series. It got switched to a movie. It's getting a lot of hate. People seem to not like it, and I watched it, and I can see why some people might not like it. But at the same time, it's one of those movies where, like, if that came out like in the 80s, I was talking to Jamie from Secret Cabal, and he made a good point. If that came out like in 85, it'd be a cult classic, no question about it. People would love it. But like came out now, people for some reason are just like waiting to be blown away or something. And it's like, just enjoy it. It's not fantastic, but it was pretty cool and had really cool aesthetics. Like the intro credits and like the first act, it felt like I was reading the book again. And so listening to the book on tape again is just really nostalgic and cool. So that's it's kind of what I've been reading.
I've been watching stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of my segue, because I watched Salem's Lot also. So
I finished up Rings of Power. Watched the last episode of that. Loved it. Thought the whole season was great. Really excited for the next season.
That ending was really cool.
Oh, you actually watched it?
I finally finished it last night. Yeah.
So I watched that. I watched the next.
I was going to ask you a question about Rings of Power, but I think it's a spoiler, so I'll ask you off the air.
I also watched the next episode of Agatha All Along. That
how many are there now?
I think there's 3 or 4.
I've only watched the first 2.
It's not as good as I thought it was going to be, but it's fine. Like, it's
the first episode was cool, but like the ending, I was like, and then the second episode, I was like, it was fine. Like, I didn't really feel like
I'm
that.
not invested in it.
Yeah.
And I watched the first couple episodes of the new season of Vox Machina. My wife is super excited about that. She's a watched Critical Role, like every episode of Critical Role multiple times, I think. But the new season of Vox Machina, I think, is the best season so far.
That's
like,
good.
It feels like a D&D campaign. It's great.
I was going to start it last night, but Sarah was too tired after coming back from the St. Louis drive.
And I think I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I've replaced my going to bed time with rewatching The Walking Dead from season 1. So I watched the first season of Walking Dead and into the second season. Man, I forgot how much I liked the beginning of that show.
Yeah, it's good. It's a great intro. It's funny. I think I mentioned I was watching that again while I was painting miniatures. I had it in the background because I wanted to get back to the point where, because Sarah, I've watched it several times to get to because the last season's on Netflix now. And I've never watched it all the way through. I've watched the first half of the last season, but I was like, I'm gonna watch it again. So like, I was watching with Sarah, and we got like maybe up to season 4 or 5, but then she just kind of like, I can't take this anymore. She just doesn't like how all the characters fight and stuff. So we stopped, and I decided I was gonna start it again from season 1. I got all the way up to like season 5 or 6, and I'm like, you know what? This is taking forever. I'm just going to skip ahead. So I started watching from the first episode of season 11. That's the last season, right? Season 11.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was like watching the first episode of that, and I got through to the part where I've seen before, and I had to like take a break for all these new shows. So I haven't even gotten to the part yet about like I haven't seen. So maybe I'll finish it someday. But
I remember I wanted to see that new Rick show.
Yeah, that's the reason I wanted to watch it was I wanted to watch the Daryl Dixon one, and then that what is it? They Live or Those That Live. Yeah, is it done? Like the first season done?
I don't think so, but I don't think I have the streaming platform to watch it. I think you need to have like Paramount or AMC.
AMC goes through Apple, so you can like do like it's like a add-on to your Apple subscription if you have Apple TV.
Man, I already pay so much for Apple TV that I don't even use it. So
it's just piecemeal stuff. But yeah, it's a good show for this time of year. But that's like what we've been watching. Right? Is there anything else you've been watching, or is that it?
I think that's pretty much it for me.
The other thing I was going to mention too is what you should be watching. Not really, but if you want to laugh, I've been doing this new series on YouTube. I'm actually doing a new video. I'm mixing it today. I've been doing one-take drum covers where I'm kind of out of shape playing drums, so I'm trying to like kind of get better because I've been learning piano and trying to write songs and stuff, but I've kind of been like, getting lazy on the drums, so I'm trying to get a little more serious, especially with recording this new Alternus song that Adam and I are doing with Brian from the audiobook narrator for Relic Myers. So on YouTube, I have a playlist called one take drum covers, and I just play through a song without much prep. I mean, a couple of them I think I play like a little to warm up, and then I just record myself on video and play sloppily. So it's not great, but it's fun if you want to see some really rough covers of songs I like. But the one I'm doing today is very, very much for anybody who's read Relic Myers or heard us talking about it, because it's a song that features very prominently in that book. So go check that out. Also, go pick up Relic Myers and the Rhythms of Ruin. It's available everywhere. If you happen to be in the Indiana area, anybody in the Midwest, I'm doing a book signing this Saturday in Carmel, Barnes & Noble. And then after that, the weekend after that, I'll be in Lafayette. The weekend after that, I'll be back in Indianapolis, all Barnes & Nobles. So I'll have cookies, hopefully.
Cool.
Go buy the book.
I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, we're going to give you 10 minutes back if you're live, because this is a little shorter than usual.
This meeting will end early, so you can.
This is going to end. This is a short episode.
Yeah, it's short notice, short episode, short on content.
I want to hear that laugh recording. I hate my laugh, by the way. I hear myself laughing on this podcast. I hate it. Everyone probably hates their own laugh. I hate mine so much. It's like some kind of weird, like some kind of breathing problem.
I don't think I care about my laugh. I don't think I mind my laugh at all.
Well, you don't laugh as like abrasively as me. So anyway,
I'm not as abrasive.
Stick together, guys. It's rough out there. That's my closing now. Stick together. It's rough out there. Joint operations.
Oh yeah,
2 players, not 1 player, 2 players.
Mine's have a good week, guys.
Don't.